At my graduation party, my parents publicly mocked me for not becoming a doctor. When I defended myself, my father threw a drink in my face, but my brother's next move silenced the whole room. So, to give you some background before I jump into the drama, I'm Zoe, 22 years old. I graduated from college not too long ago, and, like any student, I was both relieved and excited to be done with exams and stress. I was especially proud of my degree in environmental science. It's not the most glamorous degree, but it's something I've been passionate about for years, and I believe in it. I know I want to make a difference in the world, even if it's on a smaller scale. Anyway, my family decided to throw me a graduation party. You'd think it would be a simple, celebratory event, right? Congratulations, Zoe, we're proud of you, kind of vibe. But, of course, with my family, things were never that straightforward. Let me introduce you to the key players in this story. My dad, Greg. He's a lawyer, the kind of person who thinks everyone should follow a successful career path, which in his mind means becoming a doctor or lawyer. He prides himself on being practical and has little patience for anything he deems a waste of time or idealistic. My mom, Lisa, she's kind of the opposite of Greg in a lot of ways, soft-spoken and non-confrontational. She doesn't usually initiate drama but rarely challenges Greg when he's in one of his moods. She's the type to smooth things over when the tension gets too thick, but it never feels like she has my back in a meaningful way. My brother, Nathan, he's 25 and a doctor. That should tell you everything you need to know. He's always been the golden child of the family, the one who can do no wrong. He's charming, successful, and, honestly, a little smug about it. I don't hold it against him. He's just him. But it's hard to feel like I matter when he's constantly being held up as the example of what a successful child looks like. And then there's me, Zoe, the one who decided to major in environmental science because I want to do something meaningful with my life. It's not like I'm expecting to change the world tomorrow, but the work is important, and I'm proud of it. So, back to the party. Everything started off okay. I was getting congratulated by some extended family members, exchanging awkward small talk, and smiling for photos. The usual. But I could already feel a sort of tension in the air. My dad was sipping on his gin and tonic, glancing over at me every now and then. I didn't think much of it at first. He's not really one for emotional displays, so he tends to keep his thoughts to himself. But then, after a while, it started. The little jabs. Environmental science, huh? Greg said, almost like he was talking to himself, but loud enough for me to hear. That's a nice degree, Zoe. It's good to have a passion, but how are you planning on making a living from that? I just smiled, trying to brush it off. I've got a job lined up in a sustainability firm. It's not about the money, Dad. It's about making an impact. Greg shook his head, almost in disbelief. Sure. But saving the planet doesn't exactly put food on the table. That's what real jobs are for. It was the first time he said something outright critical, and I could feel my blood start to boil, but I kept it cool. It was my party, after all. I wasn't about to get into a confrontation over something so trivial, right? But then Nathan jumped in. Dad's right, Zoe. I mean, think about it. You're trying to fix the environment when the world's falling apart in so many other ways. You'll never have the kind of stability I've got. Medicine's a real career. His smile was that mix of smugness and superiority that always made me want to punch him in the arm. I let out a short laugh. Okay, Nathan, not all of us are built to fix people's broken bodies for a living. Some of us want to fix the planet instead. Nathan just shrugged. I don't know, Zoe. The planet won't pay your bills. Maybe someday you'll figure it out. My mom, sitting next to my dad, just sighed and gave me an apologetic look. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were saying, I didn't raise you to make this kind of life choice, but I guess you're an adult now. At that point, the tension in the room was palpable, but it got worse. Greg wasn't done. Zoe, he started again, after a few more uncomfortable minutes of silence. I don't get it. Your brother, Nathan, is set for life. He's got a real career, making real money. And here you are with a degree that's just not going to get you anywhere. His voice was getting louder, more animated. He wasn't holding back anymore. I wasn't having it. Dad, I don't care about money the same way you do. I'm not going to spend my life chasing a paycheck and living for status. I want to actually do something that matters. Greg's face turned red with frustration. He slammed his drink down on the table, making a loud noise that made everyone stop talking. He glared at me. You think this is going to work out for you? You think the world needs more tree huggers and people who can talk about climate change while sitting behind a desk? The moment stretched out for what felt like forever, but I finally snapped. I stood up, glaring at my dad. You don't get it, do you? It's not just about what you think is important. I'm doing what I believe in, and I'm proud of it. I don't know if it was the frustration or the alcohol or what, but Greg's face twisted in a way I'd never seen before. In one motion, he grabbed his gin and tonic, stood up, and threw it right in my face. The cold liquid hit me with a sharp shock, soaking my hair and running down my shirt. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what just happened. My heart was pounding in my chest, and the room was so silent, you could have heard a pin drop. The cold drink dripping down my face felt like it was freezing me in place. I stood there, soaked, my mind struggling to catch up with what had just happened. I could barely breathe. The room was so quiet I thought I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Everyone was staring at me, but none of them moved. None of them said anything. My dad, standing there with a smirk on his face, was waiting for a reaction. The whole thing felt surreal. For a moment, I thought I might just collapse. The humiliation hit me hard, my hand shaking as I wiped at my face with the back of my sleeve. My mom sat frozen next to my dad, her eyes wide, but she didn't get up. She didn't say a word. Her silence was like a punch to the gut. I'd always known she was passive, but this was something else. My whole life, I've been asking for her to stand up for me just once, but it was clear she wasn't going to now. And then, Nathan, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, stepped in. I figured he'd be the first one to tell me to calm down or to side with my dad, like he always did. But what happened next wasn't what I was expecting. Dad, chill, Nathan said, in a tone that almost sounded genuine. That was a bit much, don't you think? For a split second, I thought maybe he was finally going to do something right. Maybe this would be the time he stood up for me. But then I saw it, the same smug expression that was always on his face, only now there was a coldness to it. The look he gave me was almost pitiful, like he felt sorry for me, but not in the way someone who cared would. More like he was above me, like I was a lost cause. You know, Zoey, he continued, his voice tinged with mock sympathy. Dad's right. You've always had these big dreams of saving the planet, but I mean, let's be real for a second. You're just spinning your wheels. You don't even have a solid career lined up. He glanced at my dad, who nodded in approval. You know, maybe if you just followed the script like the rest of us, things would be a lot easier for you. My stomach twisted in knots. That's when it hit me. Nathan wasn't defending me. He was just throwing more fuel on the fire. It was as if he was taking a moment to publicly enjoy watching me squirm. I was furious. The tears I'd been holding back finally started to burn the back of my eyes. But I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down in front of them. I wiped my face again, swallowing the lump in my throat. I wasn't going to cry. Not here. Not for them. I've had enough of this, I said, my voice shaking but determined. I'm not going to let you do this to me anymore, Dad. Not today. Not ever again. Greg's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into that familiar, condescending smile. Oh, so now you're going to stand up for yourself? Where was this fight when you were in school, Zoey? You could have done more. You should have chosen a real career. Instead, you wasted your time on something that's never going to matter. The words hit me like a punch. It wasn't just the drink or the mockery. It was the way he completely dismissed everything I had worked for, everything I had poured my heart into. He wasn't just angry, he was disgusted by me. And that's what made it worse. The look on his face, like he thought I was inferior to Nathan, to the version of me he had always wanted. And still, my mom said nothing. For a moment, I thought about leaving. I thought about walking out of the party, going anywhere far away from this toxic atmosphere. But before I could move, I heard Greg again. His voice had dropped to a low, dangerous tone. You know, he started, his eyes not leaving mine, this party was supposed to be about you, Zoey. But maybe it's time you learned something important about the real world. You don't get to just choose what you want to do and expect it to work out. You have to be smart. You have to succeed. You're not doing that. The venom in his words made my blood boil. I could feel my whole body tense up, my fist clenching at my sides. This wasn't a father. This was a man who was more concerned with his ego than with his own daughter's happiness. He didn't even see me as a person anymore, just a failure in his eyes. And that's when Nathan made his move. I thought he was just going to stand there, smug and superior as usual, but no. He stood up, making his way to the center of the room, and in front of everyone, he addressed my dad with that same unsettling smile. Dad, don't worry. Zoe'll figure it out. Eventually. It's not like she'll ever be able to handle it the way we did. But you know, she does try, Nathan said, dragging his words in that way that made it feel like he was patronizing me. And then he turned to me, his eyes narrowing with that smug superiority. Zoey, you know you don't belong here, he said softly, just loud enough for everyone to hear. It's okay. You can go back to pretending you're saving the world, but you and I both know where this is going. You'll realize it soon enough. The entire room went still. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't some offhand comment from a brother who didn't understand. This was deliberate. He wanted to humiliate me. He wanted to make sure everyone knew just how little he thought of my choices, of me as a person. I could feel my face turning hot with embarrassment. But more than that, I could feel the anger building. I was done being the joke. Done being the one everyone could put down to make themselves feel better. I knew what had to happen, but I wasn't sure I was ready for it yet. I wanted to leave. I wanted to storm out, to never come back. But I knew I couldn't. Not without saying something. Something that would make them feel what I was feeling. Something that would make them finally understand the weight of the damage they'd done. But before I could say anything, Greg suddenly raised his hand, a gesture of mock surrender. All right, Zoey, you want to talk about making a difference and changing the world? Go ahead. But don't come crawling to me when it doesn't work out. Don't come to me asking for a handout when your little environmental firm goes belly up. His words stung. They were meant to. And yet, in that moment, I realized something. They didn't just want to tear me down. They wanted to break me. And maybe, just maybe, this was the moment I was finally going to break free from them. The whole room was watching, waiting for me to react. But what happened next wasn't something I could have ever predicted. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Nathan. The tension in the room was unbearable. Everyone was waiting for me to snap. My dad's taunting, Nathan's smug face. My mom sitting there like she was invisible. Everything was piling up. The humiliation, the frustration, the anger, it all came to a head in that moment. But instead of backing down or walking away, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to let them control the narrative anymore. I wasn't going to let them keep diminishing me and my choices, pretending like I was the one who was wrong all along. Greg's smirk widened when he saw my silence. It was almost like he thought he'd won. Like he could push me into submission, make me feel small enough that I'd retreat back into my shell, accepting his version of reality. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. I stepped forward, my voice trembling at first, but gaining strength with every word. You think I'm a failure, don't you? I looked right at my dad, locking eyes with him. You think because I didn't follow your script, I'm somehow worthless? Well, here's the truth. I don't need you or anyone else to define my worth. Greg's smile faltered slightly, but he didn't back down. You're delusional, Zoey. You can't live in a fantasy world and expect it to work out. No, I said, taking a deep breath. I'm living in the real world. The one where I don't have to please you, or Nathan, or anyone else. The one where I'm allowed to follow my passions. And you know what? It's working. I'm doing what you never thought I could, and I'm not backing down. Not anymore. I could feel the fire building inside me, the words pouring out, raw and honest. For the first time, I wasn't apologizing. For the first time, I wasn't shrinking. I was standing up, not just for myself, but for everything I had worked so hard for. But just as I thought I had a handle on it, Greg cut me off. You're not going to change the world, Zoe. You're not special. You're just another idealist living in a dream. It was then that I felt something shift inside me, something I couldn't ignore. A realization. All this time, I had been trying to prove something to them. I've been trying to make them understand, trying to get their approval. But I didn't need it. I didn't need their validation. I needed something else. I needed to take control. I needed them to see that they were the ones who were wrong, not me. I glanced around the room, my eyes landing on the people gathered. The awkward silence stretched between us. I knew I had an audience. And that was when the thought hit me. If Greg and Nathan thought they could humiliate me, I'd turn the tables. I wasn't going to leave with my head down. I was going to leave with my dignity intact and more. I glanced at Nathan. He was standing across from me, his arms crossed in that arrogant, self-assured way he always had. The smug smile was still on his face, but something flickered behind his eyes when he saw the fire in mine. I think you need to hear something, I said, my voice calm but firm. Maybe it's time you know the truth about something, Nathan. His eyebrows furrowed, confused, but he stayed silent, watching me with that infuriating look of superiority. I knew what I had to do. I'm not going to let you, or anyone else, make me feel like I have to fit into your box, I continued. But here's something you don't know about me, Nathan. I've been planning something for a while now. You want to talk about real careers? Well, you've underestimated me. I'm not just going to be the green kid you've always thought I was. I've got something up my sleeve. Nathan's expression shifted from smug to suspicious. What are you talking about? I smiled, finally feeling a sense of control over the situation. I've got an offer on the table from a pretty well-known environmental firm. I've been negotiating with them for months. And guess what? They want me. Not as some entry-level intern. They're offering me a position that pays more than you make as a doctor, Nathan. The room went quiet. Everyone was staring now, their eyes darting between me and Nathan. I could see the confusion in Nathan's face, the disbelief. It was like he didn't know what hit him. For once, the attention wasn't on him. It was on me. I could see Greg's jaw tighten. He wasn't expecting me to fight back like this. And Nathan? His confidence seemed to slip away, replaced by something that looked a lot like fear. Zoe, stop playing games, Greg said, his voice tight. You're just making things up. No company would offer you anything like that. Not with that degree. I laughed, the bitterness coming through. You've underestimated me for years, Dad. Maybe it's time you realized I'm not the little girl you thought I was. And I'm certainly not the failure you keep trying to paint me as. The room was shifting now. The tension was palpable, but I could feel the tables turning. I wasn't just the disappointment anymore. I wasn't the one who had to justify myself. They were the ones scrambling, trying to catch up with what was happening. Nathan looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. His smug, superior demeanor was completely gone now. You're kidding, he muttered, almost to himself. I'm not kidding, I said. You'll see soon enough. I've got it all lined up. I could see the doubt creeping in, and that's when I knew I had won. In that moment, I had taken back control. I had made it clear that their mockery wouldn't break me. If anything, it had fueled me. The tension hung in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Nathan was standing there, his face a mix of disbelief and anger, while my dad was stewing in frustration. Everyone in the room had fallen silent, their eyes bouncing back and forth between the three of us. And I was standing there, feeling a quiet sense of power I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in my life, I wasn't apologizing for who I was. I wasn't begging for their approval. I could see it in Nathan's eyes. The mask of superiority was slipping. You're lying, he muttered, but his voice had lost its conviction. The self-assured smugness was gone, replaced by uncertainty. You couldn't have, they wouldn't have offered you. I'm not lying, Nathan. I cut him off, my voice steady. I've been working hard to get here, and you've spent your whole life thinking the world revolves around you. It's time you learned that it doesn't. Greg's face was reddening now. You're wasting your time, he snapped, his fists clenched. You'll never make it. Just like always, you'll fail. You can't take over the world with your little eco-projects. But something in his voice had shifted. It wasn't as mocking anymore. There was fear there. He was scared. Scared of losing his grip on me. Scared that his version of the world, the one where he controlled everything, was slipping away. I smiled to myself, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I won't ever be like you. And I'm not trying to change the world to fit your expectations. I'm doing it my way." The room was still and silent for a long moment. Then, in the most unexpected turn of events, my brother Nathan, who had spent his entire life belittling me, who had stood by and watched as Dad tore me down, did something I never imagined. He took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and then walked over to me. I tensed. Was he about to mock me again? Was this just another twisted game of his? But to my shock, he didn't. He put out his hand, and his voice, while quiet, was steady when he spoke. "Zoey, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're not completely wrong," he said, his eyes not quite meeting mine. "You've always done things your way, even if it was different from what Dad wanted. Maybe it's time I stop pretending like I have all the answers." For the first time in my life, Nathan wasn't the golden child. He wasn't the one being praised. And in that moment, it was like I saw him for what he really was. Just a person, flawed, confused, and perhaps a little scared, just like the rest of us. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't need to. But I looked him in the eye and nodded. "Thanks, Nathan," I said quietly. "I appreciate that." The room was still reeling from the exchange. My dad stood there, stunned, his face pale. He didn't know what to do, and for once, I could see the cracks in his armor. He was no longer the all-knowing, all-powerful figure he'd once seemed to be. He was just a man, facing the reality of what he had done to his family for all these years. After a few long, heavy seconds, my dad turned and walked out of the room, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He didn't say a word. And just like that, it was over. The man who had spent my whole life belittling me, controlling me, was leaving without a fight. I couldn't believe it, but I was finally free from his suffocating grip. In the weeks that followed, things changed in ways I never expected. Nathan and I had a few more talks, awkward but honest. It wasn't perfect, but I could see him trying. I could see that he was finally beginning to understand me, not as the failure he'd always thought I was, but as an individual who had her own path to walk. As for Greg, well, he didn't take the news of my new job offer well at all. He tried, for a while, to pretend it was just a fluke, that it wouldn't last. But I kept proving him wrong. I started my position at the firm, and slowly but surely, the confidence I'd built began to erode his criticisms. I didn't need his approval to succeed, and that realization was the most freeing of all. Eventually, after a few months, Greg tried to reach out. He called me once, but I let it go to voicemail. The message was short, awkward. "Zoey, I guess you were right. I've been hard on you. But maybe it's time we talk. For real." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had learned something much more important. My worth wasn't determined by what they thought of me. It was defined by me. Nathan and I still talk sometimes. He's not the same person he used to be. He's still Nathan, but he's softer now. He doesn't always get it, but he tries. And I think that's enough for now. As for my mom, she still doesn't speak up much, but I can tell she sees things differently now. She's starting to recognize the damage that silence can do. But she's still learning, just like the rest of us. So how are things now? Well, I'm doing well. Better than I ever imagined. I've got the job I wanted, the life I worked hard for, and the confidence to keep going after what I want, without waiting for anyone else's approval. My parents? They're still around, but I no longer let their words define me. They'll have to come to terms with who I am on their own. And as for the party, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the turning point I didn't know I needed. It was the moment I finally stood up for myself. Things are finally on my terms. And it feels pretty damn good.